Hi everyone, this is the fourth video in the series of integrations, and in this video I'm going to show you integration between two ServiceNow instances using authentication type as basic. I will come back to the authentication types using Auth or JWT in my future videos, but let's focus on this one with basic Auth for now. And to start with the things, I am going to first jump to the REST message which I'm going to use in my uh, code. So the use case which I'm going to consider here is whenever an incident is created in the instance A, corresponding incident is also created in the instance B. Okay, so let's get started. First of all, to start with the things, I need to have a web service in my instance B, which I'm going to hit to create a record. Or if you are integrating directly with the incident table and not using a staging table in between, then you can simply do that as well by creating records directly in the incident table, but make sure your integration user has the required roles. It might differ based on the implementation type. I'm going to show you the one with the staging table in place. So I have already created a staging table in my instance B. So this is my instance B, and here is the staging table, that is my web service with all the fields in the incident table as well. And this is the transform map. I have set correlation ID to 2 as collace, and this is the transform map from source table to the target table. And let's get started. So I am back in my instance A. I'll go to the REST message module. Come on. Let's click on new. So let me give the name as demo underscore instance A, and the endpoint for my instance B needs to come here. I'm not going to select anything over here for now. Let's create a new record. Incident insert is the name, and the message I'm going to use is post, because I'm planning to create a new record in the instance B, and table API URL for my web service is API now table, and as I already mentioned, this is going to be basic, and I have already created a user which is this one. Demo underscore basic is the user record. So where is that pop-up? Yeah. And if I submit, so this part is done. Let me save this record first, and we'll move forward. This is my HTTP request. Here I can set certain headers like content type, and the value is going to be JSON, since I'm planning to send my data in JSON format. And here I can pass the variables which I am planning to use. For example, I am planning to pass short description from here. So it would look something like this. Next, I want to pass description. And third is the correlation ID. Okay, then let's save this record once again, and I can also click on auto generate variables to test it out with some test values if this works out for me. So I'm going to give a correlation ID as any dummy value for now. Description would be test description. Short description is test short. And let's click on test. So we'll come to know if this is going to work or not. Okay. Looks like some issue with the content type I have mentioned. Let's go back. Uh-oh, I missed one P in the application. I'll click on test again. User is not authenticated, status failure. Required to provide auth information. Let's go back and see. So let me go back to my instance B and see if, let's reload this one first, and let me reset the password for this user. Same password which I have already given to the basic profile that I have created. And I am going to allow only web service access. Let's Try it again. Okay, so this works now, and you can see here that I have received some response where I can also find the sysID of the incident that is created. So if you guys are also planning to store the correlation ID on the instance A, then this is the place where you will have to fetch the sysID from the response. And let's verify whether there is an incident created with this correlation ID in the instance B. Yeah, this is the one. So this is the incident number. This is the short description that I gave in my request, and this is the description that I have given in my request. So test execution works fine. Now let us see how I can make it work in the practical use case. So what I'm going to do is, let's go back first. If you're not too good at scripting, then you can simply copy paste the script, and I'm going to tell you from where. This is the area. Click on preview script usage, and you can copy the entire code from here. Okay, and just go to business rules. So the table for my business will be incident. Advanced, when I want this to be executed, is depends on your use case. If you're planning to do certain modifications after the API call happens, uh, then you can use async, because things will carry on in the back end, and once that happens you can take any action. If this is a one-way call, then you can simply do after insert. So once your incident is inserted into instance A's table, then only the API call will be triggered. So for now I'm simply going to use async insert, and I'll copy paste the script which I copied from there, and let's remove any junk line sitting over there. So here I'm going to pass the correlation ID from the current incident. And the description. Next is short description. So this part seems to be complete, and I can simply save this record, and we can now test it out whether a record will be created in the instance B once I create an incident in this instance. Okay, so once I save this record, an API call should happen to instance B and an incident should be created over there with this as the correlation ID. I think there's one mistake in my code which I've written. First, let's fix that one. So in the correlation ID field, I am passing current.correlation ID, which is not correct. Correlation ID for the instance B's incident should be the number for my current incident. Okay, then now it's good. Now let's get back to the incident, and if I save this incident record now, I'm expecting that an incident would be created in the instance B with this as the short description and this as the description. Alright, so here we are. The incident is created with the same short description and description that I have given over there. So this is how we can use REST message to create incident in the instance B while doing an API call from the instance A using basic auth. And in the upcoming videos, I'm also going to show how we can achieve the same thing using token-based authentications like OAuth and JWT. Now there are a couple of other additional use cases which could be taken into account. For example, I am sending the data for one incident from instance A to instance B. Instance B has the correlation ID, but when I talk about instance A, here the correlation ID I have not saved when an API call was made. So this is something which could also be taken into account, and I have already told you how that can be saved. From the response that I am receiving, I could see the sys ID of the incident in instance B, which could be utilized when it comes to the correlation ID, or from the response itself. There can be a couple of other modifications done so that the response contains the incident number. And if you're dealing directly with the incident table, I think the number and sysID would already be part of the response. So there are numerous things that can be done. So you guys can practice all along using those use cases. And if there's any confusion, you can let me know in the comment section. And this use case was specific to the insert, but when we need to do an update that can be done using the same way, like using the REST message, but it would depend whether you need to use post or patch depending on what kind of methods you have used to implement. Let's take into account the one which I have used using the staging table. To update the incident record, if you again send the post request, that would also be fine. Patch method is not required because you are inserting the data in the staging table, not directly in the incident table. And the transform map which is created for the staging table and the connecting to your target table, which is incident, contains correlation ID as the correlates field. So no matter how many post calls you make, based on correlation ID, if there's a change in data, the incident at the other end would be updated and no new incident would be inserted. But things change when you are not using the transform map or your staging table. You are using the table API for incident table directly. If you do multiple post calls, then a new incident would be inserted. So in that case, the recommended method is to use patch, because patch means you are sending an update on the existing record. Okay, so let's take a look at that as well, how it is going to work when we talk about the update. And I'm going to take into account a particular scenario when, let's say, the impact changes on an existing incident record. So I will jump onto my REST message again. So I'm going to mark it as post, and we'll see whether multiple incidents are created in the instance B or the existing one is updated. So this is my existing incident in the instance B. Let's save this record, and I'm going to quickly copy the endpoint from here. You can simply mention the content over here, or if you only want to send specific fields, because if you mention here, this will be like a hard-coded content where all the fields you will have to mention which are about to update. But you can also mention the same content part in your script where you will only specify those fields which are changing. Since in my use case I have only mentioned about the impact field, I am mentioning it here. All right. This is fun, right? When somebody writes the code for you and your work becomes too easy to say. Okay, I need to go to business. Yes. New. So this is going to be transfer on update, and again my table is incident. Advanced. Sync update. So whenever the impact field changes, I need to trigger this API. Since I don't want a new incident record to be inserted, I also need to set the correlation ID. Okay. Fine. Let's save this. And I'm going to go back to my rest message again. Copy. Incident update. Fine. So let's go back to the incident which I created a moment ago. This is the same incident that was created by me. And if I change the impact, this is the existing incident on instance B, impact is low by default. If I change this to high and save the record, okay. I am expecting that impact on the incident in instance B is also modified, and it is modified indeed, and there is no new incident created with the same description. So description, let's verify the same. The incident number here is 396, and that is the same case here. So this is how we can also send the data on update of the incident without using patch, because I'm using the staging table where I am using correlation ID as collace field. So we only need to make sure that when we are sending data even on update, the correlation ID field is not blank so that it does not create a new incident in the instance B and it updates the existing one. But as I mentioned, if you're not using the staging table, you're inserting incidents directly into your incident table, then you need to use uh, the appropriate HTTP methodologies like post when you're trying to create an incident, patch when you're updating an incident, and that is the recommended approach as well if you're dealing directly with the tables, respective tables. So thank you for watching and don't forget to subscribe.